1950, Detroit was the fifth largest city in America with a population of over 1.8 million. Today, that number has declined by over 1 million people, and the city now ranks 23rd in the country. As a result, there are tens of thousands of abandoned homes, businesses, schools, and factories throughout the city. In this episode, we'll be focusing on the city's abandoned car factories. Detroit was at the center of the rise of the automobile, and the automobile was central to the rise of Detroit. In 1913, Henry Ford opened his Highland Park factory, the first in the world to use a moving assembly line. With this innovation, the automobile industry in Detroit exploded, and the city became its definitive manufacturing hub. People migrated to the city from all over the country to take advantage of its booming economy, bringing its population from 500,000 to 1.8 million in just 4 decades. And then, as quickly as Detroit's population had climbed, it began to fall. With the passage of the Interstate Highway Act of 1956, cities all across America began to transform. Freeways bulldozed their way through low-income neighborhoods and strangled off downtowns from their surrounding areas.
In many areas, slums have been cleared to provide right-of-way for the construction of attractive modern expressways.
On these very highways, the middle class began to leave the city for a new auto-centric way of life in the suburbs. As a result, city demographics began to shift towards lower-income African-American families who couldn't afford a car or a new suburban home. Even for black families who could afford new homes, many developments had policies outright banning them from purchasing one. The tax revenue provided by the remaining lower class was nowhere near enough to sustain a city the size of Detroit, and it began to fall into disrepair. Detroit's wealth had vacated the city, enabled by its own highways and its own products. This is the Connor stamping plant on the east side of the city. It spent most of its later years producing parts for Buick, Oldsmobile, and Cadillac vehicles. In 1986, GM shut down the plant, laying off its 700 workers.
This place is falling apart.
I can feel these things flexing under my feet. It's pretty empty in here.
It is.
But this place is huge. There's going to be some buildings that are better. There's some belts for the machinery here, or maybe rubber seals for barrels or something.
It's wide open.
Plant actually dates all the way back to the 1920s when it was used by the Hudson Motor Car Company. They were a smaller independent automaker that eventually went out of business in the 50s. After a few years of sitting idle, the factory was purchased and reopened by Cadillac. It's pretty stripped in here.
It is.
Look at the size of this elevator.
There's a car on the wall. And United Auto Workers.
#1 quality team.
Smells like a fire.
The whole building does.
More in here. Outside smells like oil and grease.
A little stage, probably for meetings and presentations, union gatherings. GM logo. And there's all their brands. Buick, Cadillac, and what the heck is that in the middle? Do you know what that is? That logo in the middle belonged to Oldsmobile, which became defunct in 2004. This is pretty fun. This looks like the tunnel that the cars would go through on the assembly line.
I saw the track down there.
Let's just do a loop around, see what we see. Yeah, look at the track on the ceiling.
Yeah. It would pull
The panels,
body panels
would go
through
right
there,
through here. It would dip down into something here.
right here, yeah.
There's like sprayer nozzles. This is pretty neat.
This might have been like priming and painting and stuff.
Yeah. Or just treating the metal.
Treating the metal most
Anti-corrosion.
likely, yeah. It would dip it in here.
Another dipping thing. Oh.
Nothing on this floor.
It's like a wind tunnel.
There's nothing here.
This is kind of cool.
There's the wash basin.
Yeah. It was built in 1919 as an expansion to the existing Fisher body plant. Instead of creating complete cars, the Fisher Company only created bodies, which were then sold to other companies for use with their own chassis. During World War II, the factory was converted to help in the war effort, producing parts for fighter planes and bombers. After the company's absorption by GM, the Fisher brand name was eventually phased out. The plant would close down for good in 1984, as the old building could no longer be retrofitted to support modern machinery. With the sun finally dipping below the horizon, it was time to make our exit.